and what you want to do, like to your point, like what
Right,
brings you some joy,
right.
right? Because it's very easy also to get caught up in, well, I'll make this, I'll figure it out, I'll make this work, etc. And you carry a lot of that, when you're um, not making the progress you want, you need to be able to channel that into what are the changes I'm going to make, not just sort of self-evaluation and a doom spiral. Anyway, I'm pontificating but a bit, but I mean, I just think this is, when I think it's the wisdom of some experience, right? To have lived through, barked our shins on some of these things, and I just, I am a big believer in what you're laying down.
Yeah, and I also think sometimes when you're like, oh, if I become manager, comma, or whatever the, level is, I'll get another 8K, 10K.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
cost of and it is sometimes a financially driven desire to move up for sure, but the cost of failing because you weren't ready and the organization wasn't prepared to really help you be that before you became that, is worth a lot more. Like
Yeah.
it really is when you think about it. And that, I think when people talk about, the average tenure of a VP or CMO in marketing, I think a lot of it does come down to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're making decisions not based on what feels right and what we're capable of. And I'm not saying you have to be fully ready, ready, ready. I'm always about like bite off a little bit more than you can chew. But when you get right down to it, if it's for the wrong reasons and you're not doing all the, as you said, the adjacent homework around it, then you will likely fail and it's going to hurt, you know.
Well, I think something you just said reminds me of another thing that irritates me is
It's a
organizations
therapy
create these
session.
situations as well, these unforced errors of, because you were talking about, yeah, you might make 8 grand more or something. It's free to give you a better title
Yeah.
instead of more money, right? And so you see these, you see title inflation all the time, right? And so, and we'll talk about fractional CMO roles, I know, before we're done here, but a lot of times when I've come in to help organizations in a fractional role, it's frankly, because there's somebody there that's a VP of marketing that isn't really operating at all as a VP, but they were a director that was, they wanted to retain and was giving them enough trouble about it that they gave them a title. And so then all your expectations are out
Hmm.
of whack,
Hmm.
and nobody's developing you into that role because it's like, well, you arrived, right? Just sets up all sorts of bad behaviors.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to be, we're talking about the different stages of organizations and all that, and the growth of organizations. I want to make sure we talk about the big panda journey that you're
Yeah.
all, because we've got somebody here that has done the thing, took something from figuring itself out right in front of a pandemic to a unicorn.
Yeah.
So, what was that like? I guess is the broadest question I would ask. But particularly in your role, like I said, I think you were like the second marketing person, right? When you got there, something about like that. Like, what are the lessons that you would share from that crazy journey?
Well, I'll start by saying sometimes marketing folks, we pat ourselves on the back and we say we did a great job without realizing that a lot of it does boil down to some market um, functions, market moments. And so, interestingly enough, with Big Panda, the pandemic was helpful for us. I mean, it was terrible in a million different ways, but when it came to the business of IT operations, we were a SaaS based IT ops company, and our biggest competitor was an on prem company. And so, right off the bat, we had an upper hand and we leveraged it. And so that, that piece wasn't really something that marketing did, but we jumped
Yeah,
on it, right? Opportunistically,
the
we jumped
market
on
did
that.
that,
The
right? Yeah,
market moment did that.
yeah,
The second thing that the market did and that, COVID did was it created a hunger for community between a bunch of people who used to get together in an ops center, who now were all on their, kitchen counters or sitting at their desks in their bedrooms working. And we also jumped on that community vibe, and we opened up a Slack channel for people to share jobs, and we built our campaigns around companies who were thriving during the pandemic, like Sony PlayStation, like Roblox, and those who were struggling, like Expedia and others. And we changed the tone of our messaging and our campaigns based on whether they were thriving or struggling. And so, again, not something marketing did, but something marketing understood, and we leaned into that. The third thing was that our executives, our board, never pulled back. They didn't panic and say, well, based on the fact that we're not doing any events now, we're going to cut the marketing budget. What they said is, what are you going to do with the event dollars you had? How are you going to spend those to keep momentum? And we said, we're going to do virtual events. And literally, like, words are coming out of my mouth as we're kind of creating this infrastructure to start doing, cocktail tastings where we're shipping little drams of whiskey to people's homes and inviting them to come community wise, like come and have conversation with other IT ops people about the things that you're dealing with. And in the process, we're listening and we're learning, and then we're doing a webinar on that topic. And so it was, like I said, I wouldn't chalk it up to anything marketing did specifically. It was a forcing function that then caused us and allowed us to experiment, to just be open to being brokers of human beings wanting to connect with each other, and that the board and the execs never pulled back. And I know that a lot of my peers struggled because that wasn't the decision their boards took, and
Right.
it was really hard. And so I think I wouldn't take credit for that, but the fact that the sales organization loved what we were doing. We had PG days that were just so much fun, because even though we were all remote, we got to be together doing these great PG days. I think those were some of the things that made it successful. Now, what does it feel to go from 200 million valuation to a 1.2 billion? It's incredible. And knowing that it took every single person in the company to work together at a time when it was so distracting and you couldn't travel to see customers, and like, we just made it work. And so really that focus on team, whatever that construct looks like, is
Yeah.
huge.